What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And we've got a breaking news update on Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, who we've all been waiting for an update on since last week when the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Los Angeles Chargers. And in spite of that victory, Rashee Rice went out with an ugly-looking knee injury that appeared as if he would be out for the rest of the regular season. Then we heard some news that it would take a little bit for the Chiefs to find out what the extent of the injury was, and there was some slight optimism that Rashee Rice could return this season. Then, of course, the Chiefs let out a news dump just a little over an hour before game time versus the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Chiefs always dropping news at the most inconvenient hours, but Rashee Rice, unfortunately, is expected to miss the rest of the 2024 NFL season due to his knee injury. Or is he? Because we've got some conflicting reports from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network and Adam Schefter of ESPN. So I saw Ian Rappaport's tweet first, so we'll go with his to kick off this discussion. So Ian Rappaport says, sources: while Chiefs star wide receiver Rashee Rice's season is expected to be over, he did receive positive news today from Dr. Dan Cooper. Rice needs his LCL repaired, but there is a chance that's the only ligament to be repaired. He's expected to make a full recovery. But hold on a second. Adam Schefter came out with a report right around the same time saying after consulting with doctors, there's a lot of optimism that standout wide receiver Rashee Rice didn't suffer a knee injury as significant as first believed, per source. Rice will be put under anesthesia Tuesday to determine the extent of his injury, but the belief now is it could be a much shorter recovery timeline than originally thought. Then, just a couple minutes later, Adam Schefter followed up saying it's unlikely that Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice will play again this season, but doctors will not know for sure until they perform surgery Tuesday morning, per source. And then, get this, following Adam Schefter's follow-up report, Ian Rappaport also made a clarification to his original tweet saying LCL repairs like wide receiver Rashee Rice needs is measured in months, potentially 3 months, but if the surgery tomorrow confirms that's the only damage, if his ACL does not require a reconstruction, that's excellent news. He should be healthy enough for next season. Okay, so a lot to unpack here. So ending off with that Ian Rappaport tweet, he said that if it's just the LCL, then the recovery time is around 3 months, which if you're going off that timeline, that would mean Rashee Rice could potentially return for this season. He would be back in time for the playoffs. But Ian also clarified that there could still be some ACL damage in there when they go in to do the surgery, and so the recovery timeline will also be based off of that. But yeah, hopefully everyone's following because this is very confusing, and very rarely do we have Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter with conflicting reports. Now, Adam Schefter came out with a big clarification after, which was a big shift from his initial tone, making it seem like that Rashee Rice could be back this season. Though he never actually said that, that's the vibe you get from his original tweet. But if you really read the wording, he says that the injury is there's a lot of optimism that it may not be as significant as first believed. So my initial thoughts after digesting all of this for a few minutes and reading the updates and the clarifications, Rashee Rice likely avoided an ACL tear, which is a good thing. I mean, that is a positive coming from this. If it's just the LCL, if you're going to injure your knee and you're going to tear up some of those ligaments, the LCL is probably the one that you would want to get hurt instead of the PCL or the ACL. Those are the major ones that take months and months of recovery. So let's just say for a second that Rashee Rice is out for the year. Let's assume that this is still the best case scenario for him as far as season-ending injuries go, because he'll have zero limitations going into next year. Now, his potential suspension is a different story, but health-wise, nothing will be holding Rashee Rice back going into next season. It won't be this big ramp-up from an ACL injury. The LCL is a much more straightforward recovery from what it sounds like. So regardless whether or not Rashee Rice returns this season, this was probably the best-case scenario for his knee. Now, let's talk about this season. And let's talk about that 3-month recovery timeline that Ian Rappaport kind of put out there. And Ian Rappaport, I just watched a segment on NFL Game Day Kickoff as well, and he basically said that the recovery timeline is 3 to 4 months, which if we're going off of that, that tells me, okay, there's an outside shot that Rashee Rice could return this season. What I'm really getting from all this is Rashee Rice is now in the same category as Hollywood Brown, where he's expected to miss the rest of the 2024 regular season, and there's an outside shot that he could return for the postseason, but certainly do not bank on it. That being said, I think a Hollywood Brown return is much more likely than a Rashee Rice return. Knees can be tricky. A shoulder injury for a wide receiver is probably a little bit easier to deal with, and Hollywood Brown has already started his recovery process. He had surgery almost a month ago now, so there's probably a much better shot that Hollywood Brown is back. But bottom line for the Kansas City Chiefs with this update, I think it is what we've been saying. You still have to go out and trade for a wide receiver because you're essentially going to be down wide receiver Rashee Rice for the rest of the year. And that I thought, regardless of whatever update we got today, I thought the Chiefs should operate under that mentality anyway. I thought they should have traded for a wide receiver as soon as I saw the Hollywood Brown injury news when that came out. Now you're just down another guy. I think you got to go out and trade for a wide receiver, whether that be a Deontay Johnson, whether that be an Amari Cooper. And when I say trade for a wide receiver, I don't mean scraping the bottom of somebody else's roster for one and trading for like an Allen Lazard from the New York Jets or whatever. I'm talking about a relatively big name that can actually help you and make a significant impact. That's what the Chiefs need to be going for with this Rashee Rice injury update. I wouldn't expect him to be back this year. If you go and grab another wide receiver, it puts a lot less pressure on Rashee Rice to even attempt to return this year. Not that I think the Chiefs were preparing for that, but everything just becomes a lot easier if you simply acquire another wide receiver through trade. You simply have to. Rashee Rice was your leading wide receiver so far this year. He was the heartbeat of the passing game, of the offense. He was the team's leading wide receiver. He had the most catches. I mean, it's a devastating loss. There's no doubt about that. And we've already been over that because most of us had feared the worst when we saw the injury initially. But this is probably the best case scenario, again, for Rashee Rice long term. It's not an ACL. It's not a PCL. LCL, much easier to deal with, much shorter recovery time. He'll have no restrictions heading into next season. Worst case scenario, if he's not going to be back this year, you can at least get him back for next year fully healthy, suspension aside, right? But yeah, that's the update, the latest news on Rashee Rice's knee injury. Both Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are corroborating, likely out for the rest of the 2024 season, but some good news, and the injury is a lot less significant than initially thought, and you just have to turn a negative into a positive at this point by looking at it that way. So that's all I got for this video, guys. There is your latest on Rashee Rice. Hopefully now you can all enjoy the game tonight on Monday Night Football between the Chiefs and Saints. I'll be here to talk about it afterwards. With all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!